I'm going to ask Chairman Strickland if he would have the invocation. What number are you, 2?
Y'all bow with me. God, thank you so much for this day that you've given us. And Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity for all of us to get to serve you and serve the people of this state. Please just guide us and lead us who's make decisions that affect all people in our state. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. We have 4 bills before us today. All 4 will be hearing only. I want to make a clarification on Senate Bill 7 of Senator Beach. I had told him that we would hear the bill today. Department of Regents had asked if they could delay the hearing on it because they wanted presidents of the institutions to be able to come, and the bills were only advertised yesterday, and I realize it's a short notice. So what we're going to do on Senate Bill 7, we're going to ask Senator Beach to present that bill today, and we'll take whatever discussion there may be, but we'll also have discussion this open on it next week when we meet on Tuesday. The first bill we're going to hear today is Senate Bill 81. Chairman Mullis, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
What number mic is that, Mr. Chairman?
It's one on the bottom left.
I guess if I learned to read that.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm honored to come before this distinguished committee. Senate Bill 81 actually simply renames the office of the Office of College and Career Transition to the Office of College and Career Academies, in which their slang is what it does. And we have a few people that actually want to speak to this. This committee passed it out after working with the chairman to perfect the bill last session, passed out of the Senate 55-0, and the House wanted to hijack it for another cause. I did give them permission, regrettably, but they did anyway. I knew they would if I didn't give them permission. So we're back to you now to talk about this issue, and there are now over 52 academies across Georgia, and this is a great tool in the toolbox for education. It prepares students for technical type of careers rather than the college type of careers. And in today's market, we need to have our feet in both of those areas of education so we can help people ready for jobs of their choice in the state of Georgia, to help keep them here and to help keep Georgia the number one place to do business. But it still gives our students the ability to have a better decision which way their career goes through the Career Academy. If you have never seen one or been to one, you need to go, and most of us probably have them in our districts right now. Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that those who'd like to speak, with your permission, do that at this time, and I'll be back to answer any questions.
Be glad to. The only question I'd ask is this bill any different from the bill we passed last year? It's exactly the bill we passed.
As it left this committee.
And the Senate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
So,
Mr. Chairman, have you improved your relationships with the House where maybe we can get the bill done this time? Or are we going to have to keep
question.
having to come back?
No, we're more determined on this side to get their understanding.
Okay.
But it's okay. I understand how the process works.
okay. We're going to have 4 speakers. I will go ahead and read the order that they're going to appear in so you can prepare. Mr. Mark Whitlock, Mr. Neil Bidding, Mr. Mark Peavy, and Mr. Tyrell Dale. And so we will call them in that order. If Mark Whitlock would come in, we always look forward to hearing from him.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Didn't realize you were going to be on Zoom.
I appreciate you allowing me to join you. Senator Mullis, thanks for developing Senate Bill 81. I think Senate Bill 81 helps to sharpen the focus of college and career academies in Georgia. It renames the TCSG office, which manages those academies, to the Office of College and Career Academies. That provides additional focus for the office, and that will help college and career academies. It maintains the office's management of the accountability system, which is a certification process required of every college and career academy. As Senator Mullis discussed, the standards in that certification process identify the workforce mission of college and career academies. It adds to that certification process that there must be proof of increased technical skill attainment. And I think that's a great step for college and career academies and for the office. And finally, it helps TCSG to ensure that college and career academies work with teams of economic development professionals, local and statewide, who are bringing additional investment to Georgia, and specifically to bring information to the table about technical skills attainment of those young students. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Do we have any questions for Mark? Mark, it's always good to visit with you. I appreciate the work that you're doing and have done in Coweta County, and also just as a leader in college and career academies throughout the state of Georgia. I appreciate your work, and it's always good to have your input into these bills.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Thank you for your work and the work of your committee.
Okay, if that's all we have, no questions for Mr. Whitlock. Call for Neil Bidding from Technical Colleges.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've also got with us our Assistant Commissioner for Secondary Initiatives, Mark Peavy. We just would like to echo Mark Whitlock's remarks and thank Chairman Mullis for bringing this piece of legislation. As he said, it will enhance that focus on the college and career academies. We have been blessed to be able to have that partnership because it is such a wonderful program to expose that younger generation student to that vocational training. And it is truly a pipeline to both our technical colleges and the workforce. So we're grateful for Chairman Mullis for bringing this piece of legislation. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Do you have any questions from the committee? Seeing none, Commissioner Peavy, do you have any comments?
I'll just say ditto. I don't need to take any more of your time. We appreciate the support of the senator bringing this bill, and it truly is one of the, from our perspective, game changers in the communities where these college and career academies are happening because of the connection between the secondary, post-secondary, and business community. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the work technical colleges have done to give so many students in Georgia a wide range of academic opportunities. So there are no other questions for Mr. Bidding. Mr. Peavy, our last one to testify is Mr. Tyrell Dale. From the Lieutenant Governor's office.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so we're just here to pretty briefly just talk about our support for the bill. It has a technical certification that it kind of adds in that that we believe kind of continues on in the making Georgia the technology capital of the East Coast. And we just want to continue our support for college and career academies and let us know anything that we can do to help. Thank you.
Okay. This concludes the testimony on this bill. Senator Mullis, Chairman Mullis.
Yes, sir. Just appreciate your consideration and be glad to come back when you want us to.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I really thank you for bringing this bill here. Isn't it true that in 2008, my county, Floyd County, formed a college and career academy the first year one was formed?
Very true.
And isn't it true that just a few years ago, 25% of all the college and career academies in the state of Georgia were in my Senate District 52? You might call it the Mesopotamia of college and career academies.
I was just thinking of that word.
And isn't it true that I fully support the name that you're wanting to
Thank
go
you.
back to?
It absolutely is true. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Mullis, we appreciate all you do for the state of Georgia. We know how busy your schedule is, and I hate to ask you to stand by for just a minute, but I had omitted adopting the rules. I want to do that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to come back to this bill, and I'm going to go ahead and call it for action.
Oh,
We
you're
have
very
a full
kind.
committee here. I see no point in holding off for a week, because I know you're going to be busy next week working on getting my bill out of rules. You have the proposed bills, the proposed rules before you. Is there any comments or questions? Have a motion to approve by Senator Beach. Second by Senator Huffstetler. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. The rules have been approved. Now we have before us Senate Bill 81. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move that we pass Senate Bill 81.
Senator Huffstetler moved. We have a second. Senator Payne with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Bill passes unanimously. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Let me know how I can be of service to any member of this outstanding committee.
Okay. We're going to take our bills a little bit out of order today. Senator Beach is on the committee, so you're going to be here the whole time anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and call on Senator Jackson to bring us Senate Resolution 36.
That's my bill.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I read the wrong number.
Senate Bill 97 too.
Mama said I was going to need a lot of help. We're going to hear from Senate Bill 97.
I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring to you Senate Bill 97. I appreciate you giving this bill your attention. Senate Bill 97 is a very simple bill. It changes the presidential in-state waiver for certain colleges in the state of Georgia. Out-of-state tuition is substantially more expensive than conventional in-state tuition costs. Colleges and universities in the state of Georgia are provided with a presidential waiver that allows the presidents of states, with approval by the chief academic officer, to waive out-of-state tuition and provide students with in-state tuition. These waivers are split in three categories: academic, athletics, and international. The four research universities of the state of Georgia cannot exceed 4% of the equivalent of the student enrollment of the fall semester term of that school year. All other institutions cannot exceed 2% of the equivalent of the full-time semester student enrolled in the fall term of that semester year. As of fall 2020, enrollment of the research institutions were Augusta University, 9,500, Georgia State, 53,000, UGA, 39,000, Georgia Tech, 39,000. The enrollment of the historical black colleges, Savannah State, 3,400, Savannah, Fort Valley, 2,800, Albany State, 6,500. So this bill is very simple. It raises the presidential waiver for the three historical black institutions, Savannah State University, Fort Valley State University, and Albany State University, from 2% to 10%. What does that do? That gives the presidents of these three universities to go across this nation and attract the best and brightest from others, from other areas of our great state, not just our surrounding counties. But it's not a tremendous increase of attracting students. Right now, the 2% waiver of Fort Valley, that means the president already can give 56 in-state waivers to students around the country. This bill only increased that from 56 to 282. Savannah State, the president can give 70 out-of-state waivers. This bill only increased that from 70 students to 348 presidential waivers. This costs the state nothing. At these three institutions, there's still plenty of room in the dormitory, still plenty of room in the classrooms. But what it does is it gives these three institutions a competitive edge on recruiting the best and brightest throughout these United States. It's a simple bill. It costs the state nothing, and now it's just the right thing to do. As we look at decreasing enrollment of our historical black colleges in Georgia, we want them to be able to attract the best and the brightest. And I'm gonna give you one example of what they can do. If we look at the District of Columbia, the District of Columbia give their graduates approximately $8,000 to go to an institution outside of the District of Columbia. Even with that $8,000, a student at the District of Columbia still cannot come to a state school because of the cost. They still have to pay more. But with that $8,000 and an in-state tuition, they'll be high. Savannah State, Fort Valley State, Albany State can be highly competitive in attracting those students to the state of Georgia. So we want to go after our best and brightest. And if you should pass this bill or find it in your, due diligence to pass this bill, it would do great for students. It'll be great for our 3 historical black institutions, and it'll be great for this entire nation. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield for questions.
Just, if you would, any questions for Senator Jackson? Senator Payne, what number are you? Go ahead.
You said that this has no financial impact, I mean, as far as cost?
It has no financial impact. We already give in-state tuition if you're a Georgia resident. All these schools already have the room and the capacity. It's no cost. But what it does is, we know that when a student goes to school in Georgia, they tend to stay in Georgia. All right? And so it gives our presidents a competitive edge to bring the best and brightest throughout these United States to come to Georgia. And when they come to Georgia, we're just going to encourage them to stay in Georgia and add to our economic and our financial growth of this great state.
All right, thank you.
Senator Hofstadter?
Do you have the numbers on what currently is the out-of-state enrollment at these 3 universities?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The out-of-state enrollment? Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting question. Well, they brought in 3 categories. Academic, I do not know the out-of-state enrollment right now. I don't have that number, but currently, Savannah State has 3,400 students. The president is en route, and she's a little late, but I would assume that 90% of those students are Georgia residents. The Fort Valley State University has 2,800 students. I would assume about 90% of those students are Georgia residents. For the few students that do come in that have to pay out-of-state tuition, it is not only the cost of them paying out-of-state tuition. That money is negligible when we look at our entire budget. But I found that out for you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. That was a good question.
Any other questions? Senator Strickland?
My question, lines 11 through 14 provide general authority based on regulations of the board for any institution, university system to do these waivers. But if that's already being done, why do we have that in the bill? Do you know what the purpose is of putting 11 through 14 in?
It's just to provide existing language and to clarify that we're going to make an exception to increase the enrollment from 2% to 10%.
So I guess the question would be, if we just had those lines in there, would that not give the board the discretion to implement this however it best fits the state for all of our institutions, and maybe possibly have these 3 schools, for example, as you have this separate equation? Or, you see what I'm saying? I didn't know if that's the whole purpose of the first part, is to give that flexibility for any institution.
So you're saying we don't need, we only need line 15 through 21?
Oh, I don't know if that's the answer. I don't know if that's true. I was just asking, and maybe if Ledge Council, I just didn't know why we needed 11 through 14, if that does give discretion to do this differently with all our institutions. I just didn't know what our purpose of that was.
Well, Ledge Council said that subsection is required.
Okay.
And I don't know the legal terms why, but they said that's required to enact line 15 through 21.
Senator, if you would, Senator Jackson, if you would get us a copy of the statistics that you quoted. I'd also like to get, for consideration of the committee, the current enrollment statistics of each of these three institutions, how many of them are out of state, how many out-of-state students are receiving in-state tuition, how many that are coming and paying out-of-state tuition. If that were to be expanded, I think it would be a cost to the state. It wouldn't be a cost to the state, it'd be a loss of revenue, which would be basically the same thing. I think we need to know what we're talking about in terms of enrollment of each of these three individual schools. So we'll try to get that and have it circulated to the committee members before our meeting next week. We'll also, I would like to get the Board of Regents to comment on the bill, and also, if the college presidents would like to come, we'd like to extend them the invitation to come and be with us. But we will hold it. I appreciate the presentation of the bill, appreciate the thought that's gone behind it. Are there any other questions by the committee? If not, somebody speak? I'm sorry. Senator Orton, what, you're number 6.
7, Mr. Chairman.
Well, okay.
7?
All right.
This is a hot mic. Well, thank you, and I won't delay the meeting. I know we've got other things, but I just wanted to appreciate the authors coming up with this formula, because I think pretty much it's not even argued that historically we've not done, and I'm not talking about this generation necessarily, but back through the generations, that the historically black colleges need, require, and deserve a good shot in the arm. And I think this is an innovative way to attract students from across the nation and build who will be here after they graduate, in all likelihood, the statistics show. So and I think the committee will be very interested in seeing the numbers that the chairman's requesting and hearing from the presidents. But I think this is it's a good step forward, and I applaud the intention.
Thank you, Madam Senator. Members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for hearing. I will get those numbers for you, and thank you for giving me your time and your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jackson. Next bill we'll hear is from Senator Beach, Senate Bill 7.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Out of respect for the Board of Regents, I'll be very quick because I know they want to talk about this bill. This is a bill that I introduced last year dealing with early admissions for Georgia residents. I'm sure that you freshmen haven't gotten these calls yet, but you will. One of the calls that I get most is, can you help my son or daughter get in Georgia or Georgia Tech? It's become very competitive, and I want to say from the outset, in no way, shape, or form am I saying we should lower our standards. But when we've got kids getting into Ivy League colleges and Vanderbilt and different colleges and can't get into Georgia or Georgia Tech with 4.0s and 1,500 SATs, we got a problem. And I want to make sure we keep our best and brightest here. We spend about $125,000 total educating these kids from K through 12. And so we've got a lot invested in our children, and I want to keep our best and brightest here so we can continue to be the #1 state to do business. I do have some 2019 numbers. Georgia State meets this. They're at 92.3% with the information they gave us. Augusta State, or Augusta University, is at 86.2 of incoming freshmen. Georgia didn't give me the incoming freshmen, but they're at 82% of freshmen. It doesn't say early admissions, but they end up being at 82%. And then Georgia Tech is at 61%. So I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to work with Georgia Tech and probably Augusta. I think you've told me in previous conversations they have concerns about meeting this. The state of Florida is at 90%. North Carolina's at 85%. I'm starting this at 90%, but I'm willing to negotiate and look at different options and opportunities. But the whole goal of this, and especially with COVID-19 now, I think we want to do everything we can to ensure these kids and help our kids and our taxpayers of Georgia stay here and enjoy the fruits of our universities. So that's, I'll talk more about this next week after the university system comes back. Any questions on Senate Bill 7?
Any questions? Senator Jordan, I think, had her hand up first.
Yes, ma'am.
What number are you? It reads a 6 from here, but I don't think it's. Is it?
Can you hear me? Yes,
I hear
you
you.
can. Senator, with respect to this, why early admission, early action admissions?
Well, because a lot of our kids, when they don't get admitted to one of our premier universities, they are getting admitted to Alabama, Auburn, Clemson, Vanderbilt, Tulane, Tennessee, and they're making their decision. They're not wanting to wait till May to make their decision. They want to go ahead and make their plans, and we lose a lot of kids because of that. And if we're going to take them anyway, if Georgia's going to get to 82 to 85%, and they've got 4 O's, let's go ahead and take our own before we take somebody from a different state. And if you remember, Senator Strickland last year asked the Georgia State president, he was new, but he was honest, and he said, if you asked the question, if you had a kid from Texas and a kid from Georgia, and they were exactly the same, because early admissions is basically just on SAT or ACT on scores, nothing to do with essays, nothing to do with extracurricular activities. It's based on scores from what we were told. And Senator Strickland asked, if they were exactly the same, who would you take? He said, I'd go ahead and tie the kid up from Texas because the kid from Georgia will wait. And we don't want that kid from Texas to go to MIT or, to Cal Berkeley. And if you remember, Senator Strickland, I made the comment then, well, if the kid from Texas can get into MIT and Cal Berkeley with the same scores, I think the kid from Georgia could be going to Cal Berkeley or MIT, and we'll lose him or her. And I don't want to lose any student to out of state if they've got those type of scores.
And so just a quick follow-up with respect to that, I mean, it seems fairly anecdotal in terms of what you are saying happens.
Yeah.
Do you have any evidence with respect to that specific situation? Because it's my understanding that one of the reasons also that these research universities can wait is because of hope to some extent. So
Yeah.
our students actually will stay in-state because they get the tuition assistance that these out-of-state students do not. So that's kind of the leg up with respect to that. So
Yeah.
do you have any evidence?
No, and you're correct. I mean, my daughter didn't get in early. She got in she had to wait, and she was going to go to Alabama. I said, no, you're going to wait because Alabama's not as good as Georgia, number one. But number two, I want you to get the Hope Scholarship. So she was we had put a deposit down at Alabama, but we went ahead and did that. But we wanted her to go to Georgia, and she eventually got in, and thank goodness she did because of her essays and so on. But it was a panic for her to wait those 3 months to get her admissions.
So even your personal story supports the idea that not doing early admissions with respect to.
Well, my daughter waited. I mean, but she was going to go to Alabama if she didn't get in, and she wasn't going to another state school.
Right, if she didn't get in.
Right.
Thank you.
I thank the Senator for bringing this to us. Just a question and clarification. As we look at admissions requirements, whether it's early or regular, can you tell us the contribution that the state makes to the education of a student at a Georgia Tech or Georgia versus the overall cost of the education? In other words, my question is, what portion is Georgia investing in the educational component, and what portion is the cost being borne by the institution through its other research or philanthropic activities?
I can get you that answer, and I'll get that
I'd
for you
like
next
to
week.
just have that information, because if we're saying 90% come from Georgia, I just want to see the support that Georgia provides to that population.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
get that information for you.
Thank you.
Since this is a hearing only, and we'll hear from the Board of Regents or some of the university system next week.
Right. Thank you.
Senator Hickman.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Senator Beach, for bringing this. I think that we need to be very careful with this, because what happens is that this could dramatically impact the enrollment at these smaller schools, such as Georgia Southern University, where I come from, West Georgia, Valdosta State, Kennesaw. And so I think if we look into this thing a little bit further, we'll see that a lot of these students that probably get turned down for early admission at Georgia and Georgia Tech may end up going to engineering school at Georgia Southern or at Kennesaw State. So I think it's pretty dramatic that we also need to look at this stuff as what economically, if we take these students away from these smaller schools, such as the Georgia Southern University, what kind of economic impact it has to these regions. Because I know in our region, Georgia Southern is $1 billion economic impact. It employs 9,600 people and so forth. So I think there's a long-term impact to this rather than just saying they get into Georgia or Georgia Tech. I think we need to look at, if these kids don't get into these schools, they do have an opportunity to go to another school in the state.
I wouldn't disagree with you, but I would tell you this: if you look at our population growth, the Georgia has not grown very much. I mean, they're still at about 32,000 students where they've been for the last 10 or 15 years. Now, I'm not saying they need to get like Ohio State or University of Texas and go to 80,000 students, but our population in the last 10 years has grown dramatically. And that's one of the reasons I think Georgia Southern, Kennesaw State has blossomed because of our population growth.
Yeah. See, 89% of our students at Georgia Southern, and I'm sure that's kind of like with the other regional universities, 89% of our students are Georgia students. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I will say this, I know Board of Regents is coming next week to address this. The presidents of those universities will come. I also ask if they would specifically send a representative from Medical College of Georgia. I think that's critical for us to hear from them. I agree with the fact that students that go to school in Georgia probably have a higher probability of staying in the state, and we need doctors in the state of Georgia. I think one alternative we as a committee may want to look at if we do any legislation is look at this, and I'm not sure about the timing of when the offers of early admission are made or when the regular offers or acceptance letters are going out. But I know my understanding is that on out-of-state offers of early admission, we only have about an 8% positive rate of people who accept that have been offered out of state. So many of these open up. If we could maybe look at altering the mechanism to, and I don't know firsthand right now what it is, but what the response date is when you have to have a response back to the university system. But as soon as they get as soon as they respond back, if this is truly just on the SAT or ACT scoring, any student from Georgia that's in that area that has the same score, and I think they ought to immediately be offered that slot as a priority slot, maybe before they go somewhere else. Because like in the case of your daughter, she may have gone somewhere else. So it's just, I'm looking at maybe if we could put a timing sequence in there where the spots that are turned down are immediately backfilled and not wait until the general admission season. To try to keep the brightest and the best that are on close to par. I know we talked, I don't remember all the conversation from last year, but I know the university system was trying to create another small percentage that they're giving top priority or giving priority to Georgia students. I know some of the universities are also increasing their enrollments. All of these things will go a long way. We may want to look at in light of the fact that so many of the universities, so many of the offers that are made to out-of-state students, very low percentage of them are positive responses. We may want to look at the number of increases that we make and give an additional allotment in early enrollment offers to specifically Georgia students. So I think we've got a lot of think we got a lot of latitude. I think what we need to remember, I do not think that 1% is going to be good policy to apply to every university in the
Yeah.
state, because of the dynamics of the way they operate are much different. And so, Senator Beach, I'd encourage you to visit with the university system next week and see if y'all can craft, come to an agreement on what a compromise on this may be that would work for the students, but also for the universities in the state. And I appreciate you bringing the bill. I also hear people saying, my kid had this such and such score, and another student was admitted over them, and part of on the general admission, I think, depends a lot on some subjective comparisons, and I'm not sure that, I can't tell you whether that's good or bad. I think we need to look at that. I think it's in terms of making a decision which students go in, I think it ought to be pretty clear what the determination's gonna be made on. I think people who've studied hard, if they have the same academics, if you're gonna go down the list, just take it in descending order. If you're going basically on SAT scores or whatever your other criteria is, but it always bothers me when you have a lot of subjective determinations. You basically can, some of that time you can let in who you want to. So I'm not sure that's fair to everybody. Okay, next bill before us, Senate Resolution 36, Senator Beach.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this idea came up kind of out of Senate Bill 7 last year. When I was presenting that bill, I tried to reach out to a few Board of Regents and had a hard time getting a hold of anybody. And I realized that they don't report to the General Assembly, they report to the governor. There's 19 Board of Regents. They're all appointed by the governor. And I want to tell you a little personal history. I was appointed to Greta by Sonny Perdue in his first year as governor, and I served on the Greta Board, which is the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. And when I would receive a call from his chief of staff and say, the governor would really like to see these bonds passed or this initiative passed in Greta, I knew how I was going to vote, and I voted, okay? I went to LSU, but I'm smart enough to figure out how to vote. When I got elected to the DOT board, I was elected by you guys, the House and the Senate. I needed 29 votes. I needed 15. There were 22 House members and 7 senators. And I had to go and ask for their vote, and when I did, I got elected, and I got elected twice to the DOT board by the congressional district, the 6th congressional district, which was elected by the House and the Senate. And I knew who I worked for. And when I got a call from a House member or senator about a road or an intersection or a project, I returned their phone call. And I just think this would give us, what this resolution does is it says that 14 of each congressional district would be elected by the House and Senate, and then the governor would get 5 at-large appointments to the total of 19, which is the Board of Regents now. We would elect those board members. It would start in 2023, and we would elect those board members, like I said, just like we do, very similar to the GDOT board, and we would have some say in what we do, what they do, and I do think it would help facilitate a relationship with those board members and the General Assembly. And when you look at what we give them, we write them a $2.3 billion check, all right, in the budget. And so we should have some say in tuition, fees, or whatnot, or at least have some dialogue and some conversation, and I think this would help. And I would point to you, and I want you to know, I think the world of Mark Becker, and I think he's done an outstanding job. I think he's revitalized downtown Atlanta. But when I see this in the paper, that a college president makes $2.8 million, I want to know, who's making those who's signing those contracts, who's doing those contracts, and who's making those kind of payments, because that's a lot of money. And he's a dear friend. I like him, and I don't blame him at all. If somebody wanted to pay me $2.8 million, I'd take it too. But I do think that that's a lot of money for a college president, and I think we need to have some oversight of that and some say. And I do think if we elected our Board of Regents, or 14 of the 19, it would get us a seat at the table and some dialogue. And I think it's a good thing for the General Assembly to be involved in higher education in the Board of Regents. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Do we have any other questions? comments?
I've got one. I'm not sure how this appointment goes. I know we do that with the Transportation Board, but sometimes I really don't feel like I have a say in that.
Well, I addressed that in this bill because, like I said, when I ran for GDOT board, I needed 15 votes, and there were 22 and 7. I think there was 29 votes. Once I got my House members voting for me, I really didn't need the Senate. So I addressed that in this bill, and if you look, it says that there would be 5 members from the House and 5 members from the Senate. There'd be 3 from the majority party, 2 from the minority party, appointed by the Speaker from the House, and 3 from the majority party and 2 from the minority party that are appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, the President of the Senate. They would have to be in that congressional district. So if you had 29 members in that congressional district, he'd pick 3 from the majority party, 2 from the minority party, 5 out of that congressional district in the Senate, and 5 from the House. So there'd be 10 people making it, but at least it gives the Senate some say. Right now, the Senate doesn't matter on DOT board seats. We've got a board election coming up for the 11th congressional district, which I serve in, and you know, he has called me to ask me for my vote, but once he gets his 16 House members, he doesn't really need me. And so it would even the playing field for the House and the Senate with this.
Senator Jordan.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of a seat at the table, you're not talking about a seat at the table. You're talking about basically taking control of the table, aren't you? You're talking 14 out of the 19 seats on the Board of Regents.
Yeah, I mean, that would be good for the General Assembly.
Okay, with respect to that, too, in terms of the way the DOT elections are done now, they're done based on all of the House and Senate members coming together, correct? And so with respect to the 11th Congressional District, really, who gets elected to the board a lot of time is determined by the party, the majority party with respect to all of the members within that congressional district, correct?
Correct.
And so in the past, with respect to the 11th congressional district, it actually was controlled by Republicans.
Correct.
Okay, until recently when it flipped to Democrats, right?
I don't think the 11's flipped. The 6th has.
With respect to the DOT, though.
The
Correct.
6th would be Democrat, yes.
Okay.
The 11th would not.
And
The
so,
geographic areas of the 11th are much different than they were when Brandon was on the board.
no, I've been in the 11th the whole time I've been serving
Maybe
in
it
the
is.
Senate.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the
Barry
makeup.
Loudermilk goes all the way down
It would be
into
close.
my state Senate district. So, in terms of that, so basically, right now at least, with respect to the General Assembly, every state Senate member or state House member actually has a vote with respect to picking the person
Correct.
who serves on that board. And so with respect to what you're offering is that you're actually limiting that, putting the power basically in the hands of the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate, who's the Lieutenant Governor, correct?
Yeah.
And then making sure that the majority caucus, whatever that is, across the board in the House or the Senate, not just in that congressional district, is actually who gets to control picking who is on the Board of Regents.
Well, what I'm trying to do is make it fair for the Senate, because right now, we don't have a say in DOT races. Let's just be honest. When you have 29 votes and 22 of them are House members and 7 are senators, the House basically decides who the DOT board member is going to be.
And is the governor's office issued an opinion on this one way or the other?
No, I have let the chief of staff know. Before I dropped this, I did let him know. I gave him a heads up.
Okay.
So that he didn't get blindsided. I mean, Senator Jordan, if you've got any ideas how it can make it more equitable for the Senate, I'm not looking at party per se as I am looking at the Senate having some say in who gets elected. Because you got to admit on the DOT, it's very unfair. When Speaker Murphy did that, the House is weighted way more than the Senate on every congressional district. There's more House members when you have a vote than there are senators.
In understanding your concerns about the DOT, I would be happier if this bill was actually about how they're picked as opposed to the Board of Regents.
Well, I'm willing to revisit that too, but I just don't want to make the same mistake twice.
Senator Ora?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To the author, is Senator Jordan correct in asserting that the majority party, the way, the scheme that you've outlined in this, it would be the majority party controlling in all the congressional districts, not just the ones where that party happens to be?
Yeah, the majority would get, so the majority party in the House would get 3 representatives from that congressional district, and the minority would get 2 for a total of 5. Same in the Senate. So if you had a Democratic majority in the House, they'd get 3, the Republicans would get 2, and vice versa. If it's, let's say it's controlled by the Republicans in the Senate, they'd get 3, and the Democrats would get 2.
And that would cover all the districts? That means they'd be casting a vote for?
No, they would they would have to come from that district. You follow me? So they'd have to represent the 6th or the 11th. I mean, I couldn't get picked to go vote in Augusta, for example, because I don't represent that area. I don't represent those congressional districts.
And
You would have to have some representation, at least one precinct in those congressional districts.
one precinct?
Yeah, you could have one precinct.
Yeah.
That's how you get a vote now on DOT. We've got one in the 11th that only has, I think he's got 2 precincts in the 11th district, and he gets a vote.
It's called gerrymandering.
Well, I mean, it's,
When you draw lines like that to add in somebody by giving them a precinct. We've suffered at the hands of those kinds of line drawing in the past. Now, just one further question is, does this is a constitutional amendment?
correct,
So it requires a 2/3 vote.
correct.
And does that apply in committee as well? Mr. Chair, I guess that's a question really to you. Does it, just refresh me, do we have to have a 2/3 vote in committee to pass it out? Or simply on the floor?
Just on the floor, I think, when I was transportation chairman, that's how that was the way I viewed it.
My understanding, coming out of committee, all it takes is a majority vote. out of
Majority
committee.
vote, okay. Thank you.
Senator Jackson, any other questions? Senator Burns, you're number 4.
I appreciate the concern and the desire to have the regions be more responsive to the legislature, and I understand the frustrations. I would urge that we address this issue with caution. Other states have not taken a regions approach to administering higher education. And if you go to Florida, or if you go to South Carolina, there's an intense amount of political pressure that has to be exerted in order to provide resources for higher ed. In Georgia, decades ago, the regent system was created, and it was created to make the higher educational component a more independent administration. So I think that our beef may not be with the regents, it might be with how we communicate with them or how they communicate with us. And certainly that would be true of the chancellor and his staff. But all I would ask is that as we go through this, that we carefully consider this approach and make sure we get full input from all perspectives.
Well, I respect that, Senator Burns. I would just say that we give them a $2.3 billion blank check, and when they raise fees, I mean, we get the calls, and you're going to start getting them. You're a freshman, but you'll get calls when fees go up, and we have no answer, and we have no communication, and we really have no ability to do anything about it. And I think that this would be a good thing, because I know when I was on DOT, I listened to my state senators and state reps.
Senator Hufstadler,
And I,
were you done?
Yes, thank you.
sort of along the same lines, there's problems and they need correcting, and, you know, this may be some of what we need to do. Maybe not exactly this or something else, but the caution I have is that we've got 2 public universities that are in the top 15 in the country. So we're doing something right. 43 states don't have one in the top 15. We've got 2. So we don't need to do anything that's going to jeopardize that in the process. So, you know, I certainly will look at this, but I do want to have a very cautionary path on doing something.
Any other questions? Senator Harrell, we've got 2 number 7s on the table.
Double sevens.
Let me try 5 and see if that's, yeah, try that. Pardon? 7. Is it both of them? Okay.
Okay, so Senator Burns, right, kind of referred to some history, so I was wondering if anybody on this committee knows when the Board of Regents form of governance for higher education in Georgia was developed?
Yeah.
Was when?
When did the Board of Regents, when was it formed?
1942, I think.
1942?
Wasn't it right?
It's right. It's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
for good reason.
for good reason?
I was in the university system for over 30 years.
Yeah.
It was always a regional system.
Uh-huh. And it was it was academic freedom, and it was to take politics out of higher education.
It was designed to take political
Pressure.
So what lesson did they learn in 1942? Maybe we should pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's right. What happened was,
Max, you were in Congress then.
42?
it was academic freedom.
Any other comment?
Well, I think that if I could be recognized.
We have another 7. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think Senator Burns might have been prepared to make a couple of remarks because it was a high water mark. It was a real point in Georgia's history on higher education. And I think that the commonly held opinion, there's broad consensus that it has worked. And I don't know if Senator Burns wants to explain the details, but it was around having politics from the executive branch and the legislative branch, you know, threatening to fire professors and so on and so forth. But Representative Burns can do a better job of it than me.
Perhaps as we study this, these issues will be clarified. I do think that Senator Beach brings attention to a problem, and it's something that we need to find a way to address. It might not be through changing the regent system. There might be another alternative. But I certainly understand the need and the desire for the Senate to have some opportunity to hold a large state agency accountable for the resources that the state provides. So I'm happy to work with the senator to achieve those goals.
Well, thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
If you read the history on the thing, it may have been in the legislative session of 43, but it was designed to take power away from Governor Gene Talmadge as a result of Gene Talmadge's meddling in the university system.
That's right.
And so, you know, that's the bottom line on it. I don't remember whether it happened during Ellis Arnold's administration or whose it was. Chairman Payne. What are you, 14?
Was that the year you were a freshman senator?
No,
I've been here longer.
actually, I've been here 10 or 12 years at that time. Thank you, and I appreciate your confidence. Okay, Senator Jackson, I think you have someone, late arriving person that would like to testify on your Senate Bill 97. We're getting close to our deadline on time, so we would ask you to be short. If you would introduce your guest at the podium, and we will take a few minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I know time is of the essence. I would like to introduce President Washington, president of the esteemed Savannah State University. You know, this is a 4-hour ride from Savannah to the state capitol. and she was a little delayed. I'd just like to thank her for being here. She has all the answers to the questions I asked, but we can bring her back again. I just want to introduce her to you. She's a friend of Georgia. She's spent many years at the Board of Regents, so she has a wealth of information when it comes on, not only to our state universities, but what's been going on around Georgia as it relates to higher education. So Dr. Washington is our guest today, and we thank you, sir. That's it. No questions.
President Washington, would you like to speak? If you want to remove your mask, feel free to. I think we can understand you better. It's kind of muffled behind the mask. It's up to you.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone's doing well. And Senator Jackson just wanted me to come in and introduce myself to you all. I have been an employee of the Board of Regents for the last 12 years as an attorney for the university system. I am now serving as the interim president of Savannah State University and would love an opportunity to come back and speak to you regarding the bill that he introduced.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here and making the effort to get here.
Thank you all.
If there's no other business to come before the committee, we stand adjourned. Thank you so much for your participation.